Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, January 29th of 2023. Now, I have a beautiful message for you today about the power of unity. But I wanted to start with this one little thing that I found, that I ran across this week. At the end of 2020, I sat down full of angst, full of frustration from almost the entire year of 2020. And I really needed to get a grip on what was happening. And I needed to get a grip on my feelings, my emotions, and what I could do to help myself feel better and make a difference in what was happening in the world. Because that was an angst-filled year for me, as was 2021, but it was much less. So what I did is at the end of 2020, I wrote down these 5 things. And you can see this paper is loved and well-worn, but I used this as a bookmark for all of 2021, so that every time I would sit down and read a book, which was often, because I'm a reader, I would pull this out and it would remind me of all of these epiphanies that I had kind of come to help guide me. So I want to start with this because I ran across this the other day. I'd tucked it into a book that I had finished, and I was giving it away for someone else to borrow, and there it was. So I was like, oh, yeah, remember this. It'd been almost a year since I'd seen this. So number 1 is this: my problems, and I have problems in quotation marks, so sometimes they can be perceived problems, right? My problems are my own, and I take full responsibility. Number 2, COVID does not need to make me angry. I get to choose how I will walk through this life. I spent a lot of 2020 being angry, mostly, and I will be honest here, watching other people respond. And what I felt we were all giving up and we were all complying to. I spent a lot of that year just having a lot of angst and anxiety. Number 3, I am capable of moving forward and taking action. I really found myself in a place of standstill. Like, I felt paralyzed in a lot of areas, and I kept going through the motions. I kept doing my work. And I'm not talking about being able to, do what I do as far as my passion for my business. That has never changed, ever. But a lot of things changed for many of us in our friendship circles, our family circles, as we were so divided. And, I am capable of moving forward and taking action. So that was really big for me. Number 4, I do not try to control others' behavior, only mine. I don't need to control others, or I don't need to try to convince them to do something different. I get to control one person's behavior, and then I get to control how I respond and react to others. I get to be loving and forgiving and full of empathy and compassion. That is, you always think you have those things, and you go along in life, and basically until something big and catastrophic happens, like on a global scale, all of us in 2020, you realize that you have a lot of work to do. And that was a big realization for me. Now, the 5th one is that everyone deserves respect and not ultimatums when it comes to making their health choices. Now, that can be polarizing, right? That can be polarizing on both sides, on what people believe other people should do or shouldn't do. So I really had to write these things down, visit this on a regular basis, and in a lot of ways, detach from the things that I was putting so much angst and anxiety in. So what I've landed on for this week is, like I said, unity. I think that, united we fall, united we stand, divided we fall. And this is something that we all know. We need to embrace our differences, and it's the differences in things like politics, religion, race, sex, nation, states, class. Never before have we been so divided. And you know what? It's time. It is time for us to fully come back and realize that we're all connected, and we are powerful individually, but together we are unstoppable. Things can change so fast. In fact, something that I saw, I love this. There's a really beautiful book I read a long time ago, and I've revisited this in 2021. It's called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And he was around 2,500 years ago. And these are 3 quotes from him. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. The second one, victorious warriors win first and then go to war. And the third one is this: the secret lies in confusing the enemy so that he cannot fathom our real intent. And this is where Aesop says, united we stand, divided we fall. So I think that whatever is going on in each of our lives that we haven't fully brought unity back, it's time. And as I've been really thinking about this topic, I made a decision this week to do something that I should have done probably a couple of years ago. And it might not have happened a couple years ago the way that it did this week, but let me just share this with you. So at the beginning of the lockdown, the first couple of months, me and my husband had a couple who are very, very dear friends of ours. And for 20 years, we traveled the world together. And I mean that literally. We went to Greece, we went to Turkey, we went to Spain, we went to Italy, we went to Mexico. These were our travel buddies. And their perspective on the pandemic was polar opposite from my perspective. And also my husband's to a certain extent. There were some differences that we had, but there was still love and unity with my husband. But with this couple, they are some of my favorite human beings on the planet. But they couldn't deal with the fact that I didn't want to put a mask on. I didn't want to stay locked in my house. I didn't want to social distance. I wanted to keep having, friends over for dinner, and they didn't like that. They thought I was being very irresponsible, and they disconnected from me. And they said I was not welcome in their home, and I will tell you, it crushed me, because first of all, we're mature adults, like beyond mature adults, and second, I thought that of anyone who would never, ditch me, or, I never dreamed it would be them. And so my feelings were deeply, deeply hurt. And I pulled away. And for a long time, I pulled away. And I've thought about this couple on a regular basis. My husband still would go out with the husband, and he would they would have a boys' night, and I was waiting for an apology. Okay, so how familiar does that sound, right? I was not willing to say, hey, look, let's move past this. Let's love each other unconditionally. And so this week I decided, because I will tell you, over these last 3 years, I envisioned us sitting down and airing out and having a conversation with each other. But it started to get super uncomfortable. Like, how do you separate from somebody for so long and it not be awkward when you try to say, hey, look, can we put aside our differences? Can we just love each other because we're human beings and we're friends? That it becomes very hard. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that, because what happens is time goes on and we get in our own mind, right? We think, well, what if they react poorly? Or not only that, well, what if they don't listen to me? And what if we get into an argument? And I'm not willing to rehash all that again. But I thought, you know what? I just need to sit down. I need to write them an email. That would be the easiest way for me to start to reconnect, because I knew this was important. So I sat down this week, I think it was Wednesday night, and I wrote out this super long email. I didn't send it, but I wrote it all out. It was a lot. And I realized as I was wrapping it up, and I went through it again, I read the whole thing, that I was on the defensive, and in a way it was still me trying to get them to tell me they were sorry for the way they treated me. And here's the thing, I know, that's ridiculous that I would expect someone to apologize for something that they believed because it was so polar opposite from mine. And this whole concept of unity made me realize our differences are what make us beautiful. And it's what makes us, we need to still come together and unite as friends and family, and we need to do this. So I discarded that email because it wasn't aggressive at all, but it was very much, here's this fact, here's this fact, here's this fact, here's this, here's this, here's this. I mean, it was a lengthy email. And one good thing about all of that is I got all of that off my chest. We know how good it feels when you literally get things off your chest. So I deleted the whole email and I started over. And it was like, hello, my dear friends, wrote their name. And I said, I can't believe it's been 3 years since we connected. And I know we've walked through this pandemic with completely different viewpoints and different ideas. And I believe it was time for me to swallow my pride and my hurt feelings and reach out to you. And then I basically apologized if I offended them. Because here's the thing, I didn't reach out to them before this. I didn't say, and I'm not apologizing for my behavior because I don't regret any of the things that I did or didn't do. Anything that I did do hurt me more than it hurt anyone else. But I wanted them to know that if I offended them in any way, like one of the things that was very disturbing for them is that as my adverse feeling of putting a mask on, I just, I couldn't do it. And I didn't go into grocery stores and other places of business that required that. I didn't do any of that for more than a year. I didn't go to restaurants. I didn't go anywhere. And the things that I would, I'm lucky that I had a spouse who was willing to go do those things so that we could live and all of that. But, that was just one of those things. And I know that fact really, really disturbed them. And in that first email I wrote, I was like, just so you know, I didn't go anywhere. So even though you weren't happy that I wouldn't put a mask on, don't worry, I didn't go anywhere. So I found myself being defensive. And so I just wanted to put it out there, short and simple. I'm sorry. I never meant to offend you. I love you both dearly. I always have and I always will. I love you. Love, Jane. And it was very short and very simple. And when I sent it, I felt this huge relief off of my shoulders. And I just felt, why didn't I do this a year ago? But you know what? Better late than never, right? It is time for us to come together as people who believe differently, who might think differently. We need to stop confirming our biases on our technology, on social media, and on things that keep us worked up and keep us divided. This is really, really an important time. And like I keep saying, there are 2 timelines, and we get to choose which one we are on. In fact, a really good little movie that came out a few years ago called A Bug's Life might be something really good for you to either revisit or to watch. And this is an animated movie, but the message is powerful. And it is about the power of unity and the strength in numbers. And what we have as a collective and individually, our power is unbelievable. What we can create and what we can help the planet, how we can help the planet evolve. So basically the story in A Bug's Life is about these grasshoppers who are in charge, and they're in charge of all the billions of ants, and they're keeping them enslaved, they're keeping them fighting with each other. That's a big key, right? And at the end, toward the end of the movie, the ants realize that they are the ones who have the power, and that they don't have to be controlled by this small group of grasshoppers. So it's a powerful movie that I think, well, it's good for the whole family. It's a wonderful film to sit down and watch and just remind you of the collective power that we all have. So let me just, maybe I can finish it there. To me, the most important thing I wanted to share with you is the story of reaching out to people that you might be estranged from. And they might not be receptive to you. They might not be receptive to your message of love or forgiveness or compassion. And that's okay. If you put it out there, then it's them. And maybe, who knows what you might crack. You might crack something that is beautiful and can be something that can help bring us closer together. I would encourage you to nurture your communities, nurture your relationships in person with people. I think that we're still in for some interesting times where we're going to need each other more than ever. And the future is not determined. We get to determine the future. So, I'd love to, as always, start a conversation about this. I think, I will give you one follow-up with my friends. I sent them this email, and the very next day, I got a beautiful email back, and our friendship is going to reconnect. And it's not that I regret waiting so long. I know there's divine timing and everything. But I will tell you, it feels good to be the one to hold out the olive branch. I think we have these huge egos, and we have this perception of someone needs to apologize to me first before I'll accept them back in my life. I think we need to release all of that. We need to come together. We need to be on the same page when it comes to freedom and when it comes to sovereignty. We should all be able to choose, what we put into our body. We all should be able to choose that. Like we get to choose the foods we eat. We all get the consequences of our choices, but we all should have the freedom to choose. So I'm going to end it right there. So thanks you guys for tuning in every Sunday, and give me a comment. That was kind of maybe a long story about my friends, but I hope that there was something in there that resonated with you. I think it's a powerful understanding to come to about the strength that we have in numbers and the beauty and the power that we have individually and collectively. So push out some love, push out some forgiveness, be the one to reach out that olive branch. And I think the world can shift the more of us that do that on a daily, regular basis. So I love you guys. I'm so happy to be connected to all of you on this platform. And we will talk to you soon.